let's talk about one
Yeah.
of your favorite subjects, not so favorite subjects, Elon
Yeah.
Musk. Because you were saying at the
Yeah.
very beginning
I
of the
hear
Trump
he's on ketamine,
administration,
according to Susie Wiles.
yeah,
I
which,
hear he
well, she
uses
said
it.
she's not really sure now. But at the
Oh,
beginning of the
now she is.
administration, when he was jumping into Doge, you said this isn't going to last. And of course, you were right.
Yeah.
Listen to what he said about his experience last month.
Would you do Doge again, knowing what you know now?
I mean, the thing is, like, I think instead of doing Doge, I would have basically built, worked on my companies essentially. So, and the cars they wouldn't have been burning the cars.
What does that
Yeah.
tell you?
Well, that's a no, I guess. They're burning the cars is hardly the problem Tesla has, although the stock is at an all-time high, I think, this week. But it's a meme stock at this point. But, the car business has fallen off for people don't like Elon Musk. And also, he doesn't like to say it, but he hasn't done much innovation. The only thing he's done is the Cybertruck, which is repellent to consumers. So he really didn't focus on doing and China's making all these fantastic cars around the world and selling them around the world. So he did miss an opportunity. At the same time, he handled it like he was a monarch and thoughtlessly. As again, let's quote Susie Wiles: "It was no sane person would have done it the way he did it." And of course, Trump let him, and so that's ultimately President Trump's fault. But he just thought he could come in and do whatever he felt like. And I think the moment I felt like, "Are you kidding me?" was it was the chainsaw thing. The whole visual of the chainsaw was sickening, about people's lives, or comparing federal workers to Hitler and Stalin. It was also so cruel and unnecessary, and it's going to cause deaths across the world. What he's done, he will be. He will. This will show years from now. History will not treat him well.
Kara, let's talk a little politics. What about
right.
President Trump's first year in office surprised you the most in the second term?
How much money he made in tech? Yeah,
That
how much
surprised you?
money the family managed to. No, I didn't think they'd be quite that graspy and greedy. I mean, they're not billions of dollars, but the family does it. Especially around crypto, I thought that was, and of course they're like, well, it's transparent as opposed to it makes the Bidens look like pikers, the stuff they accuse them of. So I was sort of surprised how corrupt and grifty around tech the Trump family has been. I'll be honest with you. I'm sort of shocked by it, but I guess not. It's they get well, the getting's good, I suppose.
And because there is just so much on a daily basis, which is by design, I'm sure. It gets covered. You talk about it, we talk about it, but like you were saying, if it was a Biden or somebody else, it would have been, 5-alarm fire.
Well, that's always the case. If Obama had done this, so what about the tan suit and stuff like it's not. It's Donald
Or even
Trump.
another
And
Republican.
so I think anybody else, everyone sort of has built in that he's a creep. And I think actually the most recent thing with Rob Reiner was sickening. I thought he wouldn't go quite that far, but I thought actually right before I thought he'll say something terrible right now because Reiner was so opposed to him. But I didn't think I don't know how he managed to link it back to himself. I mean, he's very effective at using online to keep us distracted. And I don't just think it's distracted. I think they literally, speaking of AI, I think they go, what can we do today that will get the media running after this thing? And I think they've effectively used, I'm surprised people are still, I would watch what he does rather than what he tweets or what he truths or whatever the hell he's using over there. But that's what I think. I'm surprised the media still doesn't get the game here for all of them. By the way, it's not just him. It's Vance tries to do it kind of cloddishly, and
I do think
others.
it's different in the second term, and that there has been a lot of actual actions and policy that we cover.
That's what I'm saying.
And not just the stupid stuff he says, except for when he goes.
Every time he says some kooky thing. But I agree.
Yeah.
No, I think one of the things that's actually what the media's done well is the photos and the pictures, especially around immigration and even the destruction of the White House, of the East Wing. I think there's a lot. We are in a very visual, immediate culture right now, and I think it's not been a good thing for Trump because I think people are seeing a lot of this stuff, whether it's on media or it's on social media. You know, all these videos that go around about the brutality of when they take people. These are people that do not have criminal records. People seeing this all day long, and same thing with the White House. There's something very visual about the White House. Same thing with Epstein. There's a lot of pictures now. There's a lot of photos. There's a lot of, what was he doing there? And I think, and by the way, guess who started off this new focus on Epstein was when Elon broke up with Trump. He was
That's
the
right.
one that said, "Wait, see what's in there." I think talk about someone who's done real damage to Trump in
Yeah.
that regard.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Is there any policy that Donald Trump has put in place? I would say, for the most part, it would have to be an executive order because Congress is stuck.
Doing nothing, yeah.
That you think has been good?
Yeah, I think the idea, I'm not, the stuff around these ships to China, I thought that was good. Like directionally, a lot of the stuff he did originally around China was this is our biggest rival and we have to be very careful I always thought it was smart. I thought he did it cloudishly as in many things, but I thought the identifying the problem, which is China, was correct. But then he managed to like flip and, who knows where TikTok is at this point. You sort of give gimmies to Jensen Huang, who just shows up and I guess pets him at the White House. A lot of this stuff is worrisome because he directionally had that. The other thing is, I think the Biden administration absolutely was unduly hostile to some in tech, and probably should have spent a lot more time thinking of smaller startups and things. And so when you're a little more, you don't want to give away, you see, he's giving away everything, but there's a medium. But the idea that we should celebrate American tech is a really important one,
Yeah.
but not buying your way into it. Because now the startups, I'm a big fan of startups. I'm a big fan of innovation. But again, he's defunded all these amazing universities where all these ideas come from. And these people are leaving. I was just at the University of Pennsylvania looking at the mRNA laboratory there, and they're leaving. These are young scientists are so disheartened, and so I think he's set us back in research, basic research, not just medical but technological, and people thinking about leaving, and these are the people that will invent the next thing. And so that's I think he says he wants to help that, but then is doing the thing is not quite the same.
And on the sort of tech capitalists, the tech bros, the billionaires, who have, you're right, that they got very, very angry and anxious about the way that they felt they were treated by the Biden administration. It's not just that they want to
Well, they're
have
very
access
sensitive people.
access to the current administration. How does JD Vance play into all of that? Because he has relationships with a lot of those guys. He was a venture capitalist.
Well, sort of. Yeah.
Ish.
Okay. If you say so. He wasn't very successful is what I always joke that a squirrel could have made money the time he was doing it and he didn't. But I always like, I think Rachel Maddow calls him Peter Thiel's failed intern, which makes me laugh. He's very close to them. He's very close. And I think
Right.
they will probably be backing him. Would be my guess. Although they certainly, by the way, let me warn JD Vance, they'll cut and run if they don't get what they want, and they will back someone else. They don't have, these are not held values, and if they don't think JD Vance can hurt them, which I think a lot of people wonder about, exactly, you definitely know Trump can hurt you, right? And so I think we'll see. But he is quite close to Musk. He's very close to many of the others, and he's tech friendly. But although I've never really heard him, what's really interesting is he has kids. He doesn't talk about safety. He doesn't talk about, he doesn't really listen to anybody but people he agrees with, which is sort of something he accuses the left of doing. Like, I would love to have a discussion about tech with him. Not that he's going to call me, but you should talk to your critics. So.
Last question:
will.
Who are you going to be keeping your eye on in the political world in 2026, going into 2028, and that field on both sides?
Well, you can't count out Newsom because he's really raised his value a lot through his social media. Speaking of someone who's really has a perfect game, I have to say, I don't know. We'll see if it translates into votes, right? But I have to say, he's I hate to say this, but he's been very promiscuous on social media in a way that's effective for him raising his profile. And I think, and it's funny, and it's aimed at young people. He's been on podcasts, and he's very active, and I think that's probably pretty smart. Again, I'll see if it works. Like, see if real voters who vote, think this is funny or works. I do think. I think it probably will be JD Vance, but I don't think he's as effective online at all. I think he's somewhat repugnant online because he seems so mean. Some of the others are interesting. I'm trying to think of someone I think is, you might see. None of them are very. Of the Republicans, I'm trying to think. Well, I'm blanking. The guy who left Congress, who was so smart, he was on the China committee. He was a
Gallagher,
congressman.
Mike Gallagher.
Gallagher. I think he's really special in a lot of ways in that regard. I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff, but I have to say I thought he was one. That's the kind of person they need to suddenly appear.
I think he's a Palantir now, Kara.
Is he? I don't. Well, that's fine. I don't. So you got to work somewhere, right? You got to make your
Exactly.
bones somewhere.